Hello, Indianapolis. It's fantastic to be back. Oh my gosh. Hello, my precious.
Hello, Andy. We're so happy to have you back.
Oh, it's great to be back. I
great.
love this place.
You guys, one more time though, just seriously. First panel of the day, everybody. Andy. How are you doing?
Good. Despite the fact that I'm still a bit jet lagged. I got in at like 11 o'clock last night, but you know, I'm here.
You're here. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. So we have there is so many people that want to ask you questions, but I get my chance to ask my favorite question of you, because we all love Gollum, but also Caesar. Yeah. I was told that you drew inspiration when he rode the horse from Clint Eastwood. Is that true that you drew on Clint Eastwood?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wanted, when Caesar was riding the horse, to have him to have a kind of real presence and a strength and a relationship with the animal, which was respectful, but at the same time, you know, gave him gave him the status as the leader. But so it was very much drawn from Clint. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's amazing because I remember when that trailer came out. When that came out, you saw it riding the horse. It looks so cool. It's amazing. It was a lot of fun. Was it a way different than most you captured for like Caesar and Gollum? How do you capture that headspace?
Well, I mean, in terms of the process of motion capture, I mean, that evolved over the course of the initial foray into that for me obviously was with Gollum, but it went through so many stages of evolution from just physical capture to what we were doing on Planet of the Apes, which was complete performance capture, which it is capture of the facial expressions, the voice, wearing a head-mounted camera, out on location. It was very different. But it had taken that amount of time for it to find itself as a technology, which was just the greatest actor's tool of the 21st century. I mean, it really is an amazing thing to work with.
Oh, that's wonderful. We do have a lot of questions here, so we're going to jump into questions. Let's go ahead right there.
Hi there.
What do you think about the newer Planet of the Apes movie?
What do I think about the new Planet of the Apes movie? I think there's some amazing work in it. I think the performances are really strong, and I think where Weta have taken the visual effects in terms of the rendering of the characters, they just better themselves at every single story. So I mean, I'm really excited about where they're going to go next. I did a little bit of work with some of the cast on, you know, because we were handing over. It was literally like handing over the mantle to a new generation of apes. And so I was fortunate enough to work with some of the young cast who were doing it for the first time. And I just thought that the character of Noah was a really beautiful rendition, although he looked a little bit like Caesar, but, you know. But I thought I thought they did a great job.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. All right, next question.
Are you still able to do the Gollum voice, or does it put too much strain on your voice?
Oh, I can never do it again, never.
Never?
I've been told by the docs. I just can't do it. But just for you and everybody else in this room. I mean, I'll lead into it by just saying I'm sure that you've all, I think I've told you all, because you may have heard me say this before, but the voice of Gollum came from my cat. I owe my entire career to my cat, actually. Because it was Diz back in 1999 who came in when I was trying to think about linking the voice to the body that started coughing up furballs in front of me, and it was that sound of him going, you know, and that's what became Gollum. I mean, that's how it started.
Did you know it when you heard your cat coughing up that hairball? You're like, this is genius. We got it.
I thought that's you're making my life easy here, Diz. You know.
All right, perfect. Next question.
So this is about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Do you have a favorite outdoor location that you filmed in New Zealand? And then do you have a favorite set that you filmed on in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit?
Wow. God, there were so many beautiful, wonderful locations. I loved shooting on the South Island, the mountains, the Misty Mountains. All of that sort of was. I mean, I'm a mountaineer, so anywhere. If you take me near a mountain, my heart will start racing. So yeah. I mean, the South Island was a very special place. And in terms of sets, I really loved in the transformation scene from Smeagol into Gollum. They built all these amazing kind of very strange they sort of reflected Gollum's headspace really, but these strange little vignette scenes for as he's transforming and going through it. And I remember I really enjoyed shooting on all of those slightly smaller scale sets which were inside the studio. Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. Our next question.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm really excited to see you in season 2 of Andor coming up soon. But my question is, as exciting as it is to see you in live action, if you had to choose between only doing live action for the rest of your career or only doing mocap for the rest of your career, which would you choose?
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, that's a real tough one because I love them both, and to be perfectly frank, I don't really draw a distinction between playing a capture in a motion capture suit or wearing a costume and makeup. So in many ways, the question doesn't affect me because I'm just as happy playing. If you were to say to me, you can only play motion capture characters for the rest of your life, but you can still direct, by the way. I would say, yeah, absolutely, because it really is and has been the most incredible portal into playing so many different roles that you just would never get the opportunity to play, were it not for that technology. And so, it just opens your mind, it opens your acting chops, it opens everything up. When you have this facility to say to yourself, I can become anything. So I guess I would probably choose performance capture, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Excellent. Speaking of like a little bit of motion directors, you told me a story a while ago. I think it'd be fun that the audience would love to hear it. The nickname that the director came up for you when you were on Black Panther.
Oh, yeah, that was Ryan Coogler, who's a brilliant, wonderful, lovely human being and an awesome director. And Martin Freeman and I, obviously, so we had sort of some significant scenes together on the Black Panther. And so Ryan Coogler used to call us the Tolkien White Boys. Which is fair enough, because that's exactly what we were.
Excellent. All right, our next question.
We've had a lot of incredible live-action Alfred Pennyworth, but in his backstory, he is kind of a badass. Do you think we'll ever get to see that shown on screen?
Well, I mean, probably not, because our Alfred, or the one that I played, I mean, he did have that background. He did, he was in the SAS. He was a fighter. He was a soldier. He knows how to do that stuff. But he's he's had a fair amount of injuries of late, and and he walks with a walking stick. But who never say never? I mean, you can still fight with a walking stick. I don't know what's coming next. I really have no idea what's coming next. I'm very excited for the new Batman, but I have no idea where Matt Reeves is going to take Alfred this time round. But I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Our next question right over here.
Nothing about your past Lord of the Rings or anything, but a future one they're working on. How excited are you to try and get the gang back together to work on The Hunt for Gollum?
Super excited. I mean, to have the opportunity to go back to a world from which I saw from a very particular point of view and was able to work with amazingly talented visual effects people, artists, but to gather the team, the filmmaking team together again, go back and direct the movie with all my, the family of artists, originated, of course, by Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philippa Boyens, all of that team, and then some of the cast who were originally in those films to come back, which I cannot wait to be on set with them. I'm not going to say who they are, but it's. But I think people will be very excited, and we've also got some incredible new talent as well. So I do hope you enjoy it, and I mean I am just so thrilled to be back in that world.
Okay, thank you.
There's a debate online, and I think there's only a small handful of people who could answer this question. You probably are one of them. In Lord of the Rings, there's a scene where Samwise has the ring, and then he's giving it back to Frodo, and he hesitates, and then Frodo's like, he's like, Sam. Some people believe that he's hesitating because he doesn't want to give that burden back to him. Other people say no, he was being tempted at that moment, that he was being so tempted. With your character and being on the set, what do you think? Do you think, was it a temptation, or you think he just didn't want to pass the burden back to his friend?
I mean, I personally think that the ring is so powerful that it does, even for a flicker, it will have dominion over everyone, and it's how they deal with it. So even if it was just for a flicker, I think it's ambiguous in the film, and rightly so, and meant to be. And I think Peter directed it to be that way. But I always like to think that Samwise could be tempted because I'm Gollum, and and quite frankly, everybody is tempted by the ring. And
Wonderful, excellent. Next question.
So in the history of mocap, you can't bring the industry up without your name coming up as well. With going back to 2005 with King Kong and Lord of the Rings, where do you think this industry is going, especially with other big actors like Mark Ruffalo having such a big part in it?
I mean, what's been incredible to see over the last two decades, 2.5 decades now, has been the willingness to accept performance capture as an art form, as acting. I mean, that's the most difficult thing to explain to people. There's no kind of weird and wonderful technique to it. It's just being in character and not wearing a costume and makeup, but have artists other than costume designers and makeup designers create a skin for you, which is a digital skin in effect, So I think once people realise that that's what it was, that the performance is authored by the actor, that really, and that's taken a while to explain to people. That I think that there have been so many actors who have wanted to, and are now actually the new generation of actors who want to get into video games, who want to get into play characters, as I say, using this tech which allows you to portray anything, despite what sex you are, how tall or short you are, what the color of your skin, whatever it does. These are all irrelevant. There's no typecasting anymore. You can play anything, and I think that is a real excitement for and we've had amazing people, like when I was directing Mowgli, to have actors like Christian Bale and Cate Blanchett, and it was an endless cast of great people who wanted to explore playing characters using this technique, and so I really do think I was very lucky because I happened to be and was evangelical about it because I had such a great experience of it and saw it evolve. But I could see where it was going, and I could see that for not only now, but in 10 or 20 years' time, when there's more immersive forms of storytelling, I think it's really going to get interesting where you're kind of, where those characters are sort of all around you and you're immersed in those stories.
Thank you.
You single-handedly though took that motion capture to a next level, and because people realize it's such an art what you do, the way that you were capturing those characters and doing that, and it made these characters so likable or so believable that we have fallen in love with them and it's truly a talent. And that was before you came along. People didn't really think about it as much. It's like, oh, it's kind of a fun little thing, and then you took it to that next level, and we appreciate that for you, what you've done that, because it's made films for us so much more enjoyable, and that was really, you pioneered a lot of that for us.
Thank you.
Next question.
When you were chosen the role for Ulysses Claw, how did it feel playing him?
That's a great mask you've got, by the way. That's
Thanks.
Awesome. Just turn around and show everybody. It's amazing. It's so cool. It's so cool. That's brilliant. I'm quite freaked out, got to tell you. But anyway. Do you know how that happened? I was actually on set with Mark Ruffalo, was it? I think so. Well, I'd been the Imaginarium, my motion capture studio. We're doing the work, some of the motion capture work, and creating Ultron, helping to create Ultron and the physicality behind that. And we were experimenting with lots of different things. And Joss Whedon just said he just said to me whilst we were shooting those things, and I was kind of helping Mark really to find the Hulk using performance capture, And he said, "Hey, Andy, I've just had this thought. I've got this great idea for a role that you can play in this. Do you fancy? There's a character of Ulysses Claw. Would you like to be part of it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, yeah, okay, that sounds pretty cool. Why not? Why not?" And so it literally was as casual as that. And then I got sent the script, and it's just like, this is an amazing role. This is fantastic. I love it. So it was sort of rather undersold to me, and I just sort of thought, oh well, this will be interesting. And then of course when I knew that Claw was like a bigger role in the Black Panther, and so it was great to be able to sort of take that next step into the world. I personally, I'm very sad that he didn't last the course of Black Panther, and but then you can always come back in this universe, kind of.
Excellent, thank you. All right, our next question.
It's not something I've heard you talk about before, but what was it like for you to do Screw Tape from the Screw Tape Letters?
Oh wow! Screw Tape Letters is, I think, one of the hardest. I think the Screw Tape in the C.S. Lewis book, based on the C.S. Lewis book, was literally one of the hardest pieces of acting I've ever had to do. People always say, is there any difference between voice acting and acting a character on stage or screen or on film? And I really, my approach for a character, whether it be a recording, like an audio recording, or playing a character fully, it's the same. The process of getting into the character is the same for me. But I just found that so challenging. He's such a complex piece of writing, and it was really, I think it was one of the most difficult things I've ever done, actually. But it's such a great. Are you all aware of that book, or many of you are? Yeah. It's an amazing book, and I actually think it would make an amazing film. And no one's ever turned it into. Oh, I think I might do it, actually.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Would you direct that for us?
I might have a go.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much for your question.
Sorry. Hi.
Hello.
So I was wondering, you have a pretty awesome lineup of directorial, acting, and writing work, and I was wondering how each of those roles inform one another.
Really, it comes from the desire to tell stories and the passion that comes from that desire, And so sometimes you feel that you're, like with Mowgli, I really wanted to do an adaptation of the Jungle Book, which was closer to Rudyard Kipling's story, and I was projects take a long time to evolve. So I think whether it's acting, whether it's like seeing a character that's in a script that's sent to you that you think, oh, I really want to be part of that story because I want to just fulfill the function of playing that role in that particular story. But it's all about story, actually, and script, and whether you're, and then from a writing point of view, I've often worked with other writers, and when you're directing, you end up adjusting the script and having ideas and working with writers, and so that's a collaborative process which I adore. But I think with all of those disciplines, ultimately it's got to be something that you're burning to tell, because it takes so much of your life to actually get these things made, and so I think if it, very, very rarely would I kind of go, oh, that's a great character, but actually the story itself isn't that interesting, I'll do it. It's got to be all bound up with a strong sense of, leaving you, or as an audience, with something that you're going to remember.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've worked with lots of amazing directors, and you are a fantastic director. Was there any directors that you worked with that you kind of mimicked their style, or you kind of adapted when you started directing, that you kind of borrowed from? You're like, oh, I really like what they do, or is it just your own style that comes through when you direct?
Oh no. You're you work, if you're lucky enough to work with great people, and I have been incredibly lucky. And you're like a magpie in a way. You sort of observe and you watch and you see what people are doing, and there are films that you've seen that really influence you, and artists. I mean, I used to be a painter before I was an actor, and that's what I wanted to do before I wanted to be an actor. So I was always influenced by painters when I was young growing up, and it's the same. You know, there are certain ways of I mean, obviously Peter Jackson is a huge and has been a huge influence in my life, but I remember seeing Heavenly Creatures, one of his early films, and just adoring the way that he used the camera to move around the performances that were brilliant performances being created. But you know, there are so many different directors that do, and you know, I suppose what I'm saying is, as an actor and as a director, people that I've worked with who have influenced me along the way, because you can't help it, you absorb, and methods of directing, and you know, way that, and you see people, you know, and the different ways they operate on set, and whether they are collaborative and want to share the process, or whether they've got a singular vision, and all of these are valid and interesting, but it really does, you feed off it all.
Excellent, wonderful. Go ahead.
Hi. What do you remember the most about filming the movie Inkheart, and what drew you to the role of the villain?
Well, again, it was this great story. I just loved the book. Cornelia Funke's book is just, I mean, I'm just amazed actually that never got any further than the first film, because it was such a beautiful piece of writing. And Capricorn is such a, you know, he's an outrageous character, really, and there was something very theatrical about him, which I enjoyed, and you know, he's so dark and chilling, but at the same time, there was a humor there, you know. So it was, but again, it goes back to the writing was so strong, and the cast I was working with, and yeah, it was. I really do wish that film. I still think there's room for. I think, you know, we live in a world where you can go back and reinvent. I mean, maybe they'd make great TV series. Who knows? But they're fantastic stories.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, our next question over there.
Ready?
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
How old do you have to be to watch The Lord of the Rings? I would say at least 3, possibly 4, but I think you haven't seen them, have you? No. Well, I'm 5.5.
I think maybe when you're 5, because how old are you?
I'm 5.5.
She's 5.5.
You're a very young-looking 5.5-year-old.
I'm after 5. 5.5.
You're after 5. Okay.
5.5
cool.
is after 5.
Okay, you're after 5. Wow.
Good job.
Well, I think you should be watching them right now. Go home.
Okay, I watch it when I get home.
It's a deal.
Okay, thank you.
I love that we just all learned that 5.5 is after 5 together. So wonderful. Go ahead.
I'm after 60.
Go ahead.
So if Supreme Leader Snoke hadn't, spoiler alert, met his untimely demise in The Last Jedi,
did he?
What direction, what course do you think the character would or should have gone?
Wow, that's a great question. I've had to stop myself thinking about it because it was a very painful experience. When I read that script, and when you get sent the script for Star Wars, you have to read it in a very tightly secure environment. So I was taken to a trailer. Your phone's taken off you. There's cameras everywhere. You know, you sit down, and it's unlike any other process. But I remember sitting down and reading and going through it and going, oh my gosh, this is great. This is going really well. This is an awesome, oh my gosh, that's a great scene. This is fantastic. And then Snoke comes in, and he, what? What? I could not believe they got cut in half about a third of the way into the movie. But I do believe, I think there was, it's such a shame because there was so much there's so many different ways you could have taken that character. And I actually still do think that somewhere along the line, Snoke will have his own TV series. And it'll be a bit like At Home with the Snokes, and they will all wear gold lame, and he's actually, he'd be threatened, and he would be he would feel that he was, because he's not the most handsome guy, that that he's been overlooked. I think there was a lot of bitterness in that character. And I think he really wanted to dominate, but actually there was something within him that couldn't. I think there were lots of levels in that character, is what I'm saying. Right. And you could have gone in lots of different directions.
Thank you,
but
sir.
not dying.
I think it feels good because I think that's what we all did when we saw the movie too. When that happened, everyone's like, "What?" So yeah, I'm glad it kind of validates. I'm glad that you felt the same way we did. It was so sad by that. All right, go ahead.
So you've obviously mocapped two very prominent apes on the screen, and I imagine there's some similarities. But what did you carry over from Kong to Caesar, and what did you change from being one large primate to being another?
Well, the difference between those two was enormous in the sense that it was not just size-wise, but you guys. It's Saturday morning for crying out loud. Anyway, Kong, I've always approached Kong, unlike the original 1933 Kong, I wanted to approach Kong as if he were, we knew so much more about what real gorillas were like in 2005. All the extensive research that had been done by Diane Fossey and all manner of primatologists, since 1933. They were kind of considered monsters in 1933 that kind of crept out of the jungle and stole people and took them back. There was a sort of mystery about them. But with our Kong, when Peter and I talked about it, I said, look, I really think he ought to be more like a silverback gorilla that we would recognize from now, and yet have, because of course we are 97% genetically the same, that there were anthropomorphic elements to him. There were human qualities, and one of them was vulnerability, and another thing was the fact that we discovered he had a sense of humor, that Kong had a sense of humor. But the approach to Caesar was entirely the other way around. He is a chimpanzee, but he's brought up as a human being. So really, in Caesar's mind, he's a human. So he actually so it's the completely flip opposite. He's brought up thinking he's a human child, and then when he gets to the point where he's evolving, into a teen ape, and he gets into that fight, and then is taken and put into a facility with other apes. It's only then he discovers that he's not what he thought he was. And it gives him this other perspective of being other and being human. He's caught between these two worlds, and as I say, because we are so similar genetically, it felt very believable. But also, physically, Kong was quadrupedal, solid, silverback ape. I studied apes in Rwanda, gorillas in Rwanda and at London Zoo. But with Caesar, he was a human trapped in an ape's body in many respects.
Thank you. Fascinating. Thank you. All right, our next question.
So my wife and I, we decided to unplug from the TV for a while and listen to books on tape. And we listened to Lord of the Rings, narrated by you, and you did an amazing, amazing job.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And it was like not even having to watch it because you painted such a great picture. So I was just wondering if you had any stories or any anecdotes about doing that, and hopefully you got paid by the hour, because wow.
I didn't get paid by the hour. But it took, it was a real challenge to do those books, and because obviously, I'd lived through the Tolkien world through a particular lens, so having the opportunity to go back, and I tell you how it all started. It started during COVID. I did a reading of The Hobbit, a live reading of The Hobbit online to raise money for the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, and other charities.
Wow,
and it was,
that is awesome.
It was thank you, and it was called the Hobbitathon, and I read the whole thing in one sitting, and it took 11 hours, and I only had 2 2-minute breaks. And then the Tolkien estate said that was great. Would you read the Hobbit book for us? And so I went back, and I had 2 weeks to record the book. Now, I mean, they are very challenging. It's an incredible. I mean, anyone who does an audiobook, who reads an audiobook, it's an incredibly challenging thing. The pressure's on. It's just you and a microphone for hour after hour after hour, for day after day after day. So I'd finished The Hobbit, and then they said, well, we'd like you to do The Lord of the Rings now, and it's just like, holy mac. Okay, and it was 6 weeks of just me and the microphone and 142 characters and 3 books, and it was just like every day was just like, I don't know if I've got any fuel left in the tank, really. But one thing that kept me going was, in order to be able to do the different characters, I had to find a different relationship to the microphone, and it was like, so for instance, Gandalf, I had a physical gesture and a position for each of the characters. So if it was Gimli, I was always low. If it was Gollum, I was practically on the floor. If it was Elrond, it would be. I just literally find these physical positions to just so that I could remember going between them all very quickly how to get into those, because it's not like you're recording all the Gandalf bits and then all the it's not that. It's you're doing them straight one into the other. So it was a massive challenge, but I loved it. And when I got to the end of it, I went, I'll never have to do that again. That's great. And then they asked me to do the Silmarillion, which is impossible. And I don't know if you've ever read the Silmarillion. Has anybody here read the Silmarillion? Of course you have. You're very bright and intelligent people. I find that book so hard. I mean, I love it, and it's trippy, and it takes you off into the weirdest, wonderful places. And do listen to it or read it. Don't necessarily listen to my version because I don't know if I did a very good job. But do read it. It's an amazing book.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Did you come up with those those different positions? Did that come up just naturally when you were in the booth, or did you have that pre-planned before you got in there?
No, I just realized that in order to hold on to all of these characters, I had to find some physicality for them, because you're acting. Yeah, so it's again, it's not like you're sitting down. I couldn't sit down. I was standing up for most of it, actually.
Yeah, excellent. All right, next question.
For someone who's trying to do acting and filmmaking like myself, what would you tell a future filmmaker or actor what they would like to do with their life? Or
I think when people talk to me about when they're setting off on their careers, I always say to them, to start off with, always find a story that you are burning to tell, that you can tell in a short film, in 10 minutes. Because if you can make a 10-minute short and it has everything that a story should have, in terms of the structure of a story, in terms of the emotional content of that, if you can do that in 10 minutes, then it really sets you up for storytelling on a bigger level, and they're very difficult to get right. There are so many short films that I watch and see, and they're kind of one idea, and they're a beautiful idea, and then they never actually tell the story because they're kind of like a one-shot idea, So I mean, I say this to my children are all they're all actors and filmmakers, and they followed my wife and myself into the business, and I say it to them. I say, find something that's going to really, really drive your passion for storytelling, because they're hard to get made, these things, and you've got to sustain yourself through periods of self-doubt, through periods of thinking, it's never going to happen, So I think taking control by being a storyteller before anything else, I think is a great way in.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure. Good luck.
Hello.
Next question.
I enjoyed hearing you sing pages and pages of Tom Bombadil's songs. Was there a character that you were excited to dabble in, or a scene that you were excited to be a part of narratively reading the books that you didn't get to do in the films?
Well, funnily enough, Tom Bombadil was exactly that. I mean, because he wasn't in the films, and it was sort of like quite freeing to be able to imagine the scope and scale and just just the size of the character, and also how tender and yet dangerous, and kind of huge extremes within the character, and it was just lovely to be able to play. So I think that would be the one, actually.
I got a lot farther reading the books through your audio than I did reading them in paper. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do you think Tom Bombadil? Some people argue they think he's like a god, and that's why he's not tempted by the ring. Do you think he's like that, or do you think he's just so pure of heart it doesn't affect him?
I mean, the way in my sort of rather quick kind of assembly of what I thought the character was, I just found there was a freedom of spirit. Yeah. That was he was so in the moment that I think I don't think he's a god, but I think there was a freedom of spirit which is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Perfect. Next question.
Hi. So I wanted to ask, how much did your motion capture work and everything on Lord of the Rings kind of help push you more towards doing things like directing and starting Imaginarium and everything like that? And how much of a desire was there for you personally to do directing when you were just starting off doing theater and stuff like that?
There is absolutely no question. When I first started working on Lord of the Rings, and all this was so new to me, this technology, this new thing that was evolving, and I just remember I had a massive epiphany one day, the first time I had the motion capture suit on, and as I was raising my right hand, I could see on a screen Gollum raising his right hand, and as I was trying to find the character, he was evolving in front of my eyes, in real time, and it was just extraordinary. And so from that, and then the kind of the second epiphany for me was when Peter asked me to do Kong, and it suddenly went, hold on a minute, I've just been playing this 3.5-foot ring junkie all these years, and now I'm going to play a 25-foot gorilla. This must mean using this technology, you can do anything, you can play anything, So that I was fired up by it. I was fired up by the prospect of what it could do. And then, of course, I was working with a great visual effects team, great animators. As an actor, if you're just playing a role normally in a film, you really tend to hang out with the other actors and some of the on-stage crew. But I was working with a vast amount of people who were working in the CG environment and the animation world and so on. So I suddenly saw all these tools which then were becoming available to me. I'd always wanted to direct, even before, or in the early stage, while I was a theatre actor, I'd started to write short films and make short films. And Peter Jackson knew that I was keen to direct. And in fact, there was this one scene in Lord of the Rings where, which was actually the fight between Smeagol and Deagle, where Fran Walsh was supposed to be directing the scene, but she was not well that day, and Pete was on another unit filming, and he said, Andy, I'd like you to direct this day. And this was back in 2000, 2000, I think. And he was very, very instrumental in enabling me to get my head around directing a big crew. I mean, I literally went, that was my first experience really of directing, was standing in front of a crew of 250 people and playing Smeagol at the same time. It was kind of like, it was a huge challenge, which is why years later he asked me to direct the second unit on The Hobbit. And, but all of those technological skills that I was observing and witnessing and seeing how they changed really set me up for the sorts of films that I wanted to make.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we have time for one final question. This will be our final question right here. Andy, we love that you're here in Indiana. Thank you so much for being here. And guys,
thank you.
When this question is done, you can go to his table and you can talk with him and get photos and autographs, so the party doesn't stop here. But let's go ahead with our final question right now.
Hi, I am an English teacher,
and I teach a film analysis course. What would you say is the biggest thing that my students should look for in cinematography and film?
Oh boy, wow. That's
a heavy last question.
How long have you got? Gosh, that's so difficult. I mean, I honestly think that, that's a tricky one. I mean, I'm a massive film fan. I love looking at old films as much as the latest films that have been made. I love the films of Powell and Pressburger. I love the English filmmakers from the 40s and 50s who made The Red Shoes. You know, because it's just seeing imagination coming. You know, the original King Kong. All of those old films that were the Méliès brothers who were doing visual effects for the first time. Seeing where all the technologies that we've arrived at now have come from, for me, I think is a really great education, because you can see the imagination, you know, going from black and white into Technicolor, going from it's all of those evolutions of cinema are a long search, basically. They're a long search to finding what is going to engage and tell stories in the most powerful way. And we're still on that journey, and we'll continue to be on that journey. But I think going back to early cinema is a really informative and brilliant. You're looking at Fritz Lang and Metropolis and all of that wealth of early filmmaking. I think is invaluable for and then seeing where we've come to and where we can go.
I agree. Thank you.
Everybody, can you please give a huge round of applause for Andy?
Thank you so much.